Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome here to East Gym on the campus of Fort Lee High School for this rivalry showdown between the visiting Cliffside Park Red Raiders, 4-6 on the season, and the Fort Lee Bridgemen, 7-3 so far in 2025. Hello, everybody. I'm Dan Long. So glad that you could join us here for another edition of Fort Lee Volleyball on the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube channel. Fort Lee Sports is brought to you by the Fort Lee PBA, Cavazos Fairway Market, The Finest Construction, Fort Lee Soccer Club, Rusin and Daru Electric, Bridgeman Basketball Camp, the Fort Lee VFW, Visions Federal Credit Union, It's Greek to Me, Connect One Bank, Bergen Black Sox, Senator Builders, UCS Strength and Speed, and the Collective Salon. First matchup of the season between these two arch rivals. Fort Lee sitting in first place in the Big North American Division with a perfect 3-0 divisional record, while Cliffside Park is in third place, 2-1 on the season, with their lone league defeat coming to Ridgefield Park. Bridgemen are playing their best volleyball this season, having won 4 in a row. Cliffside Park coming in off a loss in 3 sets against Pagoda in their last time out. Fort Lee will be in their home white. Ridgefield Park will be in their road red and black. And Bella Blount will get us going here for the opening set serving, as Fort Lee is led by head coach John Ziemba. Matthew Brunelli is the head coach at Cliffside Park, the reigning Big North American Division champs from a season ago. Bella Blount leads the team with 133 digs on the season. Last time that we saw them in action earlier this week, Fort Lee with a 2-0 victory against Leonia in a tough affair. Blocked at the net, Fort Lee gets to it in time. Lorelei Gomez just trying to touch that one up and over. Low liner, popped up by Blount, miss hit there by Cliffside Park, and the opening point goes the way of the Bridgemen, as Fort Lee takes an early 1-0 lead here in the opening set. Blount will serve, and it's dug out there by Cliffside Park. Caitlin Beelens is the libero in white, number 23. Blount digging down low for that one, setting up Song to the near side. Blount again, popping it skyward. Here's Wong getting it in front of the net. Watanabe was trying to get it up and over, and it's going to be a point violation against Cliffside Park, and it's an early 2-0 lead for Fort Lee. Long volley there for that point. It's eventually secured on the violation against Cliffside Park. Red Raiders looking for the drop shot, and again a violation. I think up front they've been guilty of crossing the midcourt stripe. Destiny Covington, the junior, was trying to maneuver there. 3-0 lead for Fort Lee here in set number 1. Fort Lee lays off that hit. That's too hard, that's too long, and that's a point once again for Fort Lee. It's a 4-0 lead. A great start for Coach Ziemba's side here in the opening set. Blount continues to serve to the fellow libero, and Bylens. Watanabe, nice little hook shot finish. Fort Lee on top, 5-0. Anela Watanabe, the freshman, 21 kills on the season. Doing a nice job there up in front of the net. Dug out there by Jalessa Chicas. Chicas doing a nice job defensively. Gomez out in front of the net. Cliffside Park still in search of their first point. Fort Lee has been very solid so far. A miss hit that time by Samantha Song. She mistimed her jump. Couldn't get all of it. So there's the first point for Cliffside Park as the Red Raiders trail by 4, 5-1. Digging that one out was Sydney Kim, number 8. That jam shot Fort Lee able to track it down. Good resilient effort there defensively. In front, that one hit too hard by Fort Lee. They were trying to spike that one down. Could not get to it, and it's back-to-back points for the Red Raiders. Cliffside Park trails by 3, 5-2. Ricochets again, and now Cliffside Park has gone on a run after Fort Lee has started off with 5 straight points and leading 5-0. It's a 3-0 run. The lead is down to 2 at 5-3. Caitlin Bylins continues to serve. Song gets that one blocked away in front of the net. Setting up Gomez, and Gomez gets that one to trickle off the fingertips in front of the net. Lorelai Gomez, a junior for Fort Lee with 41 kills on the season, gives her team back a 3-point margin at 6-3. Song will serve. Just skims over the top of the net. And a point for Cliffside Park because it looked like Fort Lee had a player was trying to make a diving effort and cross the midcourt stripe. Had barely crossed the top of the net. Cliffside Park got the benefit of that little bit of a roll. And that's going to be a point and a violation. So both teams a little nerves here in the beginning of this rivalry match. That time it went up and over the net, crossed the line again. Service error into the net. Point given over to Cliffside Park and the serve as well. 7-5 lead for Fort Lee here in set number 1. These two teams met 3 times a season ago. All 3 won by Cliffside Park. In the regular season, Cliffside Park won each of those matches in 3 sets. That shot goes too long, and it's now a 1-point lead. Cliffside Park has battled back from 5 down to be down within 1. So many times last year, too, in those games. Resilient effort by Cliffside Park in battling back when looked like a couple times Fort Lee had won. That shot going too long. Goes out of bounds. And a point there for Fort Lee at 8-6. Had some doozies of matches. And then Cliffside Park won in 2 sets in the playoff meeting. So Fort Lee is trying to defeat Cliffside Park for the first time since October 16th of 2023 when they won that in 3 sets. Fort Lee unable to track it down. Another point for Cliffside Park. They're once again back to within 1 at 8-7. There's something to be said about the arch rival that brings out the best in you. Great atmosphere around East Gymnasium here today. Sally Castro, a sophomore, serving. And that time, the winner for Margaret O, as O had that deflect off a defender's hands out of bounds. Fort Lee back with the service and back with a 2-point advantage at 9-7. And that is a service ace just in front of the back line by Sarah Wong. Wong, who had 4 aces on the season prior to that offering. She filled up the stat sheet against Leonia. 12 digs, 12 assists, 6 kills in the last time out. Three-point lead for Fort Lee. Deflected, tracked down by Bylins. Skimmers off the top of the net. Cliffside Park has gotten that benefit a couple times here in the first set. Couple of fortuitous bounces off the top of the net. skims just in front and scores the winner. 10-8 lead for Fort Lee with Cliffside serving. Wong pops it up. Blount gets to it. Oh, got it over. Deflected in front by Kim. Kim tries to spike that one home. Got that deflected a bit. Cliffside stays off. No, they're going to say that was actually in. It found some space inside the course of the floor, right in front of Coach Ziemba. And there's a point for Cliffside Park. They're back to within one at 10-9. Big cross-court winner there for the Red Raiders. Watanabe set up. Kim got blocked at the net. And it's going to be double hit and a point for Cliffside Park. And they've come back from down 5 to now tie it up at 10-10. Cliffside looking for potentially their first lead of this opening set, and they'll get it with the block that time. Block in front of the net, and Coach Ziemba has seen enough. He wants to take a timeout to stop this momentum shift. Cliffside Park has rattled off 4 straight and taken their first lead at 11-10. As you're watching all this action, courtesy of our great sponsors here of Fort Lee Bridgman Athletics. Again, the Fort Lee PBA, Cafaso's Fairway Market, The Finest Construction, Fort Lee Soccer Club, Rusin and Daru Electric, Bridgman Basketball Camp, the Fort Lee VFW, Visions Federal Credit Union, It's Greek to Me, Connect One Bank, Bergen Black Sox, Senator Builders, UCS Strength and Speed, and the Collective Salon. So momentum shift to say the least. Cliffside Park saw themselves fall into a 5-0 deficit, but have taken care of business since then. Have gone on an 11-5 run since falling behind early, taking their first lead at 11-10. Oh, gets that blocked back. Cliffside Park with the taller lineup in front with the blockers. And again, another situation where Fort Lee struggling. Couple of double hits. Cliffside Park takes a 12-10 advantage. Watanabe in the back line. Wong quickly gets it up and over. Fort Lee in the midst of a little trouble here defensively. They've not been able to generate any type of spark in front. And when they've been trying to get it over themselves, Cliffside Park has been camped out in front of the net and have had the necessary height to block away those offensive offerings. Fort Lee trying to stop this run here for Cliffside Park. But a 6-0 run that Cliffside Park's enjoying. From a tough angle, Song gets it over. Yurchenko just came into the match. Again, sliced it herself. 14-10 lead for Cliffside Park. A 7-0 run. Longest spurt of this opening set for either team. Fort Lee with a 4-point deficit. Oh, fade away. There's a miss hit in the top of the net by Cliffside Park, and that will mercifully end the run as the Bridgemen pull back to within 3 at 14-11. Again, it was a 7-0 run when Fort Lee had taken a 10-7 advantage. Cliffside Park went on a 7-0 spurt Led 14-10, and now Fort Lee trying to garner a little momentum back. And there's a point. Nice slicing serve that time by Sydney Kim, the senior. 8 up. Any chance at a return for Cliffside Park. 14-12, the deficit facing Fort Lee. Again, that low lining serve just gets up and over the net. Nice serve at that. Oh, tracks it down. Watanabe quickly gets it up and over. Tracked down in the back line by Bylands. Song gets it over, gets away from the block. There's a block in front by Watanabe. Fort Lee has gone on a run. A 3-0 run here by the Bridgemen. And they're back to within 1 at 14-13. Cliffside able just to get it over. Song wasn't able to get to that one, just got it over. Watanabe, diving effort there by Cliffside Park to save it. Nice dig opportunity. Fort Lee was close to tracking it down, but Sarah Wong's effort and hustle actually went backwards. So a point there for Cliffside Park, trying to quell the momentum shift that was starting to feel like it was tilting in Fort Lee's direction. 15-13, Cliffside Park in front. Lout gets it over. Deflected, last touch out of bounds off of Cliffside Park. Going to be a point for Fort Lee. I don't know if that initial deflection was going to be off of Fort Lee last, but the player on the near side wing for Cliffside Park didn't want to take any chances, and she dove after it, and in doing so, deflected it out of bounds. Again, I think from the initial hit, it was going to be a point coming up for Cliffside Park, but can't fault the extra hustle. Cross-court winner, that's a good one for Avril Gonzalez. The senior with 48 kills on the season generates a kill there on that last play. 16-14, back to a 2-point margin in favor of Cliffside Park. Trying to take this opening set here on the road. That one hit into the lip of the net and fell backwards this time for Cliffside after they had gotten the benefit of a couple that hit the top and fell harmlessly over for points. Last season, Cliffside Park enjoyed their greatest season in program history, going 25-3 overall, winning the league title. As Castro just took a little something off that one. No communication in front, as that fell between a couple of different Bridgeman defenders. Cliffside went on to the North 1 Group 3 quarterfinals before eventually, semifinals, before eventually losing to Wayne Valley. Trying to make it 4 straight wins in a row against Fort Lee in this rivalry. Wong, too long that time. Tried to hook it in front of that back line, and too much strength on that hit. Cliffside Park back in front by 3, 18-15. Beautiful placement in front by Watanabe. Despite the diving effort of Chicas, Fort Lee was able to find that vacated spot on the floor and pull back to within 2. 18-16 lead for Cliffside Park. Again, the first one to 25 in this rally scoring. You have to win by 2. Watanabe will serve. Lout, full extension dive. Wong trying to set up Gomez. Gomez had that one skim off the top, slice home for the winner. Fort Lee back to within 1 at 18-17. Here's Gomez. Song. Back to Gomez. Didn't have the elevation. She was fading away. Didn't have the angle. Coach Ziemba frustrated that one as his team was trying to find that equalizing point. Cliffside Park, though, takes back the 2-point lead in the service, 19-17. Wong saves it over to Gomez. Chicas ranges down low for the dig. Wong pushing it to the back line. Caitlin Bylins has been great as the libero, and that got deflected off the fingertips of Song. And Coach Ziemba has to call for a timeout again. 20-17 lead for Cliffside Park here in the opening set. They're 5 points away from taking set number 1 here on the road as they're trying to once again hand a loss here against Fort Lee in this rivalry showdown. Coming into the match today, currently sitting in 8th place in power points in North 1 Group 3 is Fort Lee. In that group, number 1 would be Ramapo, number 2 is Northern Highlands. Cliffside Park sits in 11th place in North 1 Group 3. A couple spots below Fort Lee, but a win here today could possibly change those hopes for Cliffside Park. Again, they're 4-6 on the season, but a win would be enormous, not only in their hopes of potentially repeating as league champions, but if they want to garner a top seed in the group and chances at hosting come state playoff time. 20-17 lead for Cliffside Park. Gomez trying to push it with 2 hands to the far side. Plout, great job defensively. Watanabe gets it over. Nice defensive play here to the near side by Song. Kim. Ricochets in front. Kim gets it over. Song gets it over just enough. Castro. Big volley here. You could sense big point on the line, and that pinballs off of a couple of hands in front on the Cliffside Park side of the net. And an enormous point there for Fort Lee. Back to within 2 at 20-18. Luna Sugahara, the senior, comes in to serve. Sugahara with 3 aces on the season, would love one here. And there it is. A huge serve there for Sugahara. Exactly what Coach Ziemba was hoping for. Fort Lee back to within 1, 20-19. Oh, gets it over. Castro. Off the deflection, Fort Lee able to save it. Big point on the line here. That one, too long. Point for Fort Lee, and they've come back to claw it even at 20-20. Can the Bridgemen now retake the lead here late in the opening set? Bylins didn't get it cleanly, but still enough to get it to her teammate. She eventually secures it and gets it over. Bylins again, cleaning up in that back line. Fort Lee unable to get clean. That offering deflects off of them out of bounds. 21-20 Cliffside Park. And Fort Lee has not been able to hold a lead since early on in this opening set. Cliffside Park has led by as many as 3. Fort Lee led by 5 early on. They just tied it up, but then Cliffside Park on that big point there have retaken the lead. 21-20. Wong. Plout. Great hustle. Wong. Tracked down on the back line by Gonzalez. Outstanding defense there by Fort Lee. Watanabe gets it over. Watanabe again gets to it. And Kim having the miscommunication in front, trying to decide whether she or Song was going to get to it. And the point falls in between them. 22-20, Cliffside Park closing in 3 points away from taking set number one. Good serve there by Castro. Oh. Too long. Another point for Cliffside Park and the Red Raiders. 2 points away, 23-20 here in set number one. A 3-0 run here for Cliffside Park since Fort Lee tied it up at 20 all. Drop shot attempt. Wong, fade away. Beautiful placement in the back left corner. Fort Lee back to within two, 23-21. Bridgman trying to lock in here. And rally late in the opening set. Deflected, Plout tried their best to track it down. It jammed her, and now it's set point for Cliffside Park, 24-21. O gets it over. Fort Lee trying to scramble. They do. Again, Cliffside needing one more point here. And they'll get it off of the deflection. 25-21. Cliffside Park will win set number one and be one set away from winning this match on the road. So Fort Lee will have to do a little adjustments here. 25-21. Fort Lee again opened up that first set with a 5-0 lead. Cliffside Park battled back, took the lead in the middle. Fort Lee then fought back and tied it up at 20-20 and had that perilous point in balance. Just could not take the lead at 21-20. And it was Cliffside Park who did, and then had the finishing touches there. 25-21 in set number one. So we'll take a timeout here before we get back to the action in set number two. Again, we'd like to thank our proud sponsors that make these broadcasts possible. The Fort Lee PBA, Cafaso's Fairway Market, The Finest Construction, Fort Lee Soccer Club, Rusin and Daru Electric, Bridgman Basketball Camp, the Fort Lee VFW, Visions Federal Credit Union, It's Greek to Me, Connect One Bank, Bergen Black Sox, Senator Builders, UCS Strength and Speed, and the Collective Salon. We'll be back right after this for the start of set number two. That is what Fort Lee is trying to do, protect their house. They are down 1-0, though, as we head to the start of set number 2. Dan Long, so glad that he could join us here on the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube channel. If Cliffside Park is victorious in the second set, they will win the match and will hand Fort Lee their first divisional loss of the season. If Fort Lee can battle back in this one, they would force a third and final decisive set. Again, both regular season matchups against Cliffside Park a season ago went to 3 sets. So it would not be unfamiliar territory. Cliffside Park in their red and black, Fort Lee in the white, orange, and black. Caitlin Bylins, the junior libero, will serve to start off the second set for Cliffside. At the net, just trying to stuff an attempt. Cliffside Park with a fadeaway. At a point for, no, there's the whistle already by the official on the far side. That was the point for Fort Lee. There was an initial whistle and the play kept on commencing, and finally the whistle sounds, signaling that the point was given over to Fort Lee. So a 1-0 lead for the Bridgemen here in set number 2. That shot goes wide of the mark and goes out of bounds. 2-0 lead for Fort Lee. Fort Lee a season ago went 16-13, finished second in the Big North American, and had their season come to an end losing to Cliffside Park. There's a third consecutive point. So Fort Lee, just like in the opening set, off and running here in the early goings. Looking for their first win since 2023 against Cliffside Park. Chicas diving down low. Thunderous attempt there. Dug out in the back line by the Bridgemen. Panja. Fort Lee setting it up. Nice dig there out in the back line by Bylins. Gomez lofts that shot attempt up and over. And a miss hit there on the fadeaway attempt by Gonzalez into the back and to the top of the net, I should say. 4-0 lead for Fort Lee. This is playing out eerily similar to how the opening set went. And Fort Lee unable to track that one down. Deflects out of bounds. 4-1 advantage now for Fort Lee. First point for Cliffside Park in set number 2. Chloe Bylins, twin sister of Caitlin, serving. Fort Lee saves it just in front of Coach Siemba. Blocked and deflected out of bounds. Big approach there by the senior Gonzalez. Too hot to handle for Fort Lee as that goes out of bounds. Back-to-back points here for Cliffside Park. Red Raiders back to within 2 at 4-2. Gomez mistimed the jump with an advancing defensive player right in front of her, in front of the net. 3 in a row here for Cliffside, 4-3. Fort Lee 5-2 this season here at East Gym. Their only defeats against Westwood and Ramsey. They've been rock solid here at home, but trying to avoid a loss here against a rival. And that point is for Fort Lee. Did a nice job of maneuvering just inside the antenna to score that point. 5-3 advantage for the Bridgemen. Again, we are in the beginning of set number 2. Set number 1 was captured by Cliffside Park 25-21. Gomez gets the point that time, makes amends after having that miscue a couple of points ago. Did a nice job of timing it there and had that ricochet over for a point. 6-3 lead for Fort Lee. There's a service ace that ate up the back line. Great job there by Samantha Song. Song with a couple in a row. 7-3 lead for Fort Lee. That hits into the top of the net, service error. Those are the ones that hurt because you don't force the defensive team to make a play on defense. You're just gifting them a point. Siemba grimaces every time you have one of those unforced errors. Avril Gonzalez. And that is a winner in the back right corner. Pinpoint placement and accuracy of where that shot was destined to go. Fort Lee laid off it because normally that looks like it's going to be going out wide. That was pinpoint in its accuracy. 2 in a row for Cliffside Park. Back to within 2. Blount sets it up for her teammate. Quick turnaround, a dump shot. Panja, unbelievable job of making that save with one hand. But Fort Lee drops it off right inside that front side to the right side of the net. 8-5 lead as Fort Lee knows they must win this set to force a third and final set here today. Service ace. That one, unbelievable accuracy as well. It just absolutely sank and fell right in front of the libero. 9-5 lead for Fort Lee. Again, they tied their largest lead of this second set. As we'll take a timeout, brought to you by our proud sponsors. Last time that Cliffside Park came here to East Gym was on October 24th, 2024. They won in 3 sets. They lost the opening set, 25-22, but then won 25-23, 25-21. This time around, they took the opening set, and another service ace there for Fort Lee. Fort Lee starting to really click into gear here. 10-5 lead. Those serves just sink to the floor. Gomez trying to push that one over. Wong tries her best to save it as well as Plout. But Cliffside Park eventually secures the point back to within 4 at 10-6. Sally Castro serving. Kim by the 2-hand dump. And that long shot results in a point there for Fort Lee. 11-6 advantage for the Bridgemen. Fort Lee led in the opening set 5-0. Squandered that lead, and Cliffside Park would go on to win the opening set. Kim had the deflection in front, but nobody was able to pick her up from behind. (11-7), the lead for Fort Lee. The lead is 4 here in set number 2. Blount. Kim trying to spike that one down, and Cliffside Park unable to race it down. Back to a 5-point advantage at 12-7. Sarah Wong now serving. And that one just out of bounds. Nice eye there by Yurchenko, who had just come in. Sonia Yurchenko, the senior, playing on the near side wing. Saw that was destined to fall just outside the tape. 13-7 lead for Fort Lee. That one goes out of bounds, a service error. So the point goes right back over to Cliffside Park. 13-8, the lead for Fort Lee. They need to win in the second set. Double block in front. Bylands. Good job of hustling there by Cliffside Park, and a dangerous ball. Yurchenko. Beautiful job there by Bylands, diving down, getting low. Big volley going on here. Panja goes in that far corner and just a little too long. A point there for Fort Lee. Again, we're blinds from our vantage point on the opposite side of East Gymnasium, so we wait to see whether or not that did fall. Big point there for Fort Lee, 14-8. That ate up the libero again. Handcuffed Cliffside Park. 15-8 now the lead for Fort Lee. Largest lead of the match here for the Bridgemen. Pop skyward. But again, because of that ricochet off of the ceiling, it was tough for Wong to be able to handle that and set up another teammate. Curls off of her last, and it's now service right back over to Cliffside Park, down 15-9. Caitlin Bylands, 118 digs on the season coming into today's action. Bylands tries to track it down, does a great job of doing that. Eventually brought over by Covington. Little hook shot. Chloe Bylands was trying to get to it. And a point there for Fort Lee. So the side official, the on the floor official, was the one who eventually made the decision and said point for Fort Lee. Service goes back over to the Bridgemen. 16-9. Blount saved it. Gomez, beautiful placement. Little drop shot there, 17-9. Fort Lee nearly doubling up their arch rival here in the second set. That shot goes a little too long as Chicas dove to get out of the way. Didn't want any part of that one, as she knew where that back line was going. Cliffside Park needs to go on a run here to get back in this second set. That's back-to-back points after the whistle went against Fort Lee. (17-11). Chloe Bylans again serving. That handcuffed the back line a bit there for Fort Lee. That shot too long. That stops the momentum run a bit for Cliffside Park. They were trying to make it a 3-0 run. Too hard of a hit. Past the back line, 18-11 lead for Fort Lee. Again, Cliffside Park won the opening set 25-21. Banja hitting way too hard that time as Karam's out of bounds. 19-11, and a timeout taken as Fort Lee is pulling closer and closer to forcing a third and final set here at home as they're in front 19-11 here in set number 2. (19-11) lead for Fort Lee as the Bridgmen serve. That shot again too long for Cliffside Park. They've been just too powerful sometimes with these shot attempts. Fort Lee within 5 points of taking the second set. And not even having to worry about a nail biter. Cliffside Park a little rattled off their game right now. 21-11 lead for Fort Lee. They lead by 10. Clout tracks it down off the Karam. Watanabe gets it over. Nice soft approach that time by Dee Banja, the senior. 85 assists on the season to go along with 49 digs. Cliffside Park will serve, but they trail 21-12. Gonzalez serves that into the top of the net. Service error, point for Fort Lee at 22-12. Looks like we are destined for a third and final set to decide who will win this rivalry showdown and this league showdown. Good angle on that serve. Cliffside Park has to rally just to get it up and over. Nunez keeping it in play. Gomez for Fort Lee. Saved in the back line. Kim with the one-hand finish. Nice little touch in front of the net for Olivia Kim, the senior. 33 kills on the season for number 2. Fort Lee in front, 23-12. Gomez saved in that back line. Again, Fort Lee 2 points away from taking the second set. Tipped up Palagwachi did a great job initially. Fort Lee with a couple of diving efforts, unable to secure that point though. Point goes over to Cliffside Park, who trail by 10, 23-13. Cliffside Park won set number 1, 25-21. Fort Lee in command here by 10, 23-13. But the work is not over yet. Gomez had that deflect off of Castro, out of bounds. Point for Fort Lee. They're at set point at 24-13. Fort Lee looking for the final chance here in the final point as that shot goes long. As there's some things spilled on the floor right now. Looked like it might have been from some sort of bracelet as they clear that off of the playing surface for the players. 24-14, Fort Lee in front here in set number 2. No room for error for Cliffside Park. Fort Lee looking for that final point. Miss hit into the net, and Fort Lee with a dominant second set. They win rather easily, 25-14, and we are going to a third and final set here in East Gymnasium, as has often been the case in the last couple of years with these matchups between Cliffside Park and Fort Lee. 2 sets, not enough to decide it. We head to a third and final set. Stick around as we'll be right back for the start of set number 3 here on the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube channel. Here we go to a third and final set to decide who will win this regular season matchup in the Big North American Division. Fort Lee in their home white, orange, and black. In the road, black and red is Cliffside Park. Cliffside Park won set 1, 25-21. Fort Lee dominant in that last set, 25-14 winners. The two regular season matchups last season came down to a third set, each time won by Cliffside Park. So here we go as Fort Lee trying to come from one set down to then win the overall match. And in doing so, they would move their record potentially to 8-3 and win 5 in a row. Cliffside Park trying to bounce back after a loss in 3 sets their last match against Pagoda. And that time, a drop shot for a point. Sailing in was Gonzalez to secure the point. 1-0 lead for Cliffside Park. Fort Lee had taken the initial lead in the opening 2 sets. Now an early lead here for Cliffside Park. And a point at the net for Cliffside Park as it looked like the Bridgeman had stepped over the midcourt stripe. 2-0 start here for the Red Raiders. Gomez. Cloud tracks it down. Wong tried to slice that one backwards, could not. And this is the beauty of volleyball. Nothing was going Cliffside Park's way in that second set. You flush it, it's a brand new set and a brand new start. They're up 3-0. Fort Lee doing a nice job of having Kim return that one. And a big block in front by Watanabe. Gets Fort Lee on the board in set number 3, 3-1. Song will serve. Cliffside Park couldn't get it over the net. Another point there for the Bridgemen. Fort Lee back to within 1 now at 3-2. Samantha Song, 4 aces on the season. Deflected in front, point secured. That time by Cliffside Park at 4-2. And this is the winner-take-all. Third set. A Fort Lee win would keep them perfect in divisional play and in first place. And Cliffside Park would then be 2 full games behind Fort Lee. A win by the Red Raiders would have them just 1 game behind in the win column, but tied in the loss column. Gomez. Great hustle, but not enough there for Cliffside Park to track it down. Fort Lee with the point. Back to within 1 at 4-3. Lorelai Gomez with a couple of good offerings there on that far side wing. Now Anela Watanabe will serve. Castro quickly, the 2-hand finish in front of the net. Her initial hit was saved by Fort Lee, but when they were eventually scrambling, Fort Lee did not have anybody else there to track it down. 5-3 lead as Cliffside Park serves. That 8-up Song could not get it cleanly defensively. A point for Cliffside Park. And the Red Raiders back to that 3-point margin they enjoyed when it was early, 3-0. Fort Lee has yet to lead here in the third set. Gonzalez with the ace. Gonzalez serving. She had 9 aces on the season coming into today's match. Blocked in front of the net. And that time, violation, a lift against Cliffside Park. Point over for Fort Lee. (6-4) lead for Cliffside. Luna Sugahara comes in to serve here for Coach Ziemba. Serves it into the top of the net. Again, those are the freebies that you can't give away in a course of a tight match like this. 7-4 lead for Cliffside Park. Sally Castro, the sophomore, will serve for Cliffside. That was deflected. Castro did a good job of getting a piece of it to allow her teammate Gonzalez to track it down from behind. Wong trying to go cross court. Nice heady play that time by Song. She quickly looked like she was setting it up for a teammate, but actually just used the two hands to quickly get it up and over. The timing was not expected. Nice decision there in front of the net by Samantha. Was sophomore getting a point. Wong serve leads to an ace. 7-5 lead. Now has been trimmed down to 7-6. Fort Lee back to within 1. Electric atmosphere here inside East Gym. Filans trying to track it down. Gets it over. Wong. Song. Yurchenko. Filans ranging over the back line. Clout couldn't save it in time. Good drop shot there right in front of the back line by Cliffside Park. Once again, the Red Raiders, much like in that opening set, always have the answer when necessary. 8-6 deficit now for Fort Lee. Yurchenko. Dropped off as Nunez got to it. Hit too hard by Cliffside Park. Point over for Fort Lee. Bridgman back to within 1 at 8-7. Dan Long, so glad that he could join us. Another epic chapter of this rivalry. No matter the sport, when these two teams collide, it's always fun. That serve, again, too long for Fort Lee, so both teams a little too strong in their service. 9-7 lead here for Cliffside Park. Big winner there. Watanabe to the right side. 9-8. Manella Watanabe is going to be a good one. She had 5 kills in the last match against Leonia. A big point there brings her team back to within 1 as Bella Plout, the senior libero, will serve. Plout could not cleanly get to it as it ricocheted off the back of the backboard that's stationed atop the playing surface, and no other teammate could track it down. 10-8 lead for Cliffside Park. Song tried to slice that one, but in doing so had it spin straight up. And Coach Ziemba will call for a timeout. 11-8 lead for Cliffside Park here in the third and final set as we take a timeout on the floor as well. Couple of different occasions here in the third set. Cliffside Park has enjoyed a 3-point margin. Fort Lee has yet to lead in this third set. They made quick work of Cliffside Park in the second set, 25-14, but Cliffside Park has regained their form here in the third set after they won the opening set 25-21. Gonzalez saved it. Gonzalez asked for it again. Wong popping it up. Gomez got that one deflected off the hands of the libero in the back line. A big point there for Fort Lee. Richmond back within 2 at 11-9. Lorelai Gomez, 41 kills on the season coming into today's action. Fort Lee 7-3 on the year. Cliffside Park 4-6. Throw out the records when it comes to this rivalry. Double hit, but no one could collect it. Another point in front here for Fort Lee. They're back to within 1 at 11-10. Samantha Song serves that into the net, and every time it feels like that Fort Lee's got a little semblance of momentum. Fort Lee does something like that and serves it into the net. So it looks like they need a stoppage here. Might be a little sweat on the floor as they're going to be looking to wipe that wet spot and resume the course of the action here. 12-10 lead for Cliffside Park. Again, as we were just mentioning, it seems like Fort Lee was starting to get going here. They had an opportunity potentially to tie it up, but then they have it served into the net. Little stoppage, might as well be a timeout right now here on the floor for both teams. After this one, Fort Lee will stay home for their next match on September 29th when they welcome Riverdale here, while Cliffside Park will head back home and host Mawa on the 29th in their next showdown. Again, what's on the line? Not only power points for playoff seeding down the line, but also league. Fort Lee 3-0 in divisional play. Ridgefield Park 3-1. Cliffside Park 2-1 in the division. They're the top three teams. A win for Fort Lee keeps them in first place. A win for Cliffside Park keeps their hopes of repeating as league champs in line as well. That one is served into the net. So both teams being generous at service errors. Watanabe will serve. Her team down by 1. Low lining serve. Kim has that deflect a couple of times. Saved in the back line. And that one is out. Panjo was looking for that placement. It went out past the back line, and Fort Lee has finally gotten even here at 12-12. But can they take their first lead? Watanabe skims that off the top of the net, just gets over. And that's going to be a point for Cliffside Park. Looked like it was a double hit. Fort Lee was contesting that they had made the clean offering in front, but again, the violation went against the Bridgemen. A big toss-up point there. Cliffside Park once again in front, 13-12. Gonzalez will serve. Quick movement there by Wong. Cliffside Park was ready. Cross-court winner. That's a big diagonal ball. Back-to-back points secured by Cliffside Park. They lead 14-12. Trying to stem the momentum after Fort Lee had rallied from 3 down to tie it. But again, Fort Lee has yet to take a lead in this third set. Couple of Bridgemen combining there. Song, Wong, Couldn't track it down, miss hit, and it looks like Coach Ziemba is trying to calm his side down a bit. They're a little rattled after that toss-up point went over to Cliffside Park. It's a 3-0 run again by the Red Raiders. And once again, their largest lead of this third set, now at 3, 15-12. Gomez, perfect placement. Diagonal winner for her. Fort Lee back to within 2 at 15-13. They gotta go on a run here in order to take their first lead. Luna Sugahara comes in. Sugahara's service. And Fort Lee unable to return it. Dee Panja, the senior, done a nice job of cutting her shot opportunity, and Fort Lee just was unable to get it up and over back. 16-13. Winner of this third set wins the match. Yurchenko had it deflected. Cliffside Park now with their largest lead of this third set at 4, 17-13. Danger time if you're Fort Lee. Have to settle it down here and believe as the JV team in the stands celebrating for Cliffside Park in the distance. Wong two-hands that into the net. Coach Ziemba is forced to take a timeout. All momentum here on the side of Cliffside Park. They now lead by 5, 18-13 here in the third and final set. Does Fort Lee have one last push and run in them? It's danger time right now here in East Gymnasium. Cliffside Park leading Fort Lee 18-13. Kim, that was a must-have point out of the timeout. Good senior leadership there by Olivia Kim. Lead is 4, 18-14. Sarah Wong, one of the leaders for this Fort Lee side, trying to help take control of a comeback. Blocked by two different Cliffside Park players in front of the net. I think it was Yeska Nunez, number 7, who got more of that. As Samantha Song was off balance, could not get all of that jump. 19-14, back to a 5-point lead and serve here for Cliffside. Serve is long. A gift there for Fort Lee. 19-15 the deficit. Perfect placement that time by Chloe Bylans. Cliffside Park 5 points away from making it 4 straight wins in this series against their arch rival in Fort Lee. 20-15. Panja. Gonzalez had it ricochet up and over after the block attempt of Fort Lee. And Cliffside Park leads 21-15, their largest lead of the third set here at 6. Panja had it deflect again off of the front line. Fort Lee is not getting clean blocks in front. These caroms are killing them. 22-15. Bill Ploutz talking things over with the official on the ladder. I don't know what she was asking that official about. Cliffside Park able to track it down. Fort Lee scrambling. Song. Cliffside trying to close in closer, and that should be a cross-court winner, and it is. Chloe Bylans with a couple of beauties here late in the third set. All Cliffside Park right now at this point, 23-15. Service error, that goes into the net. Point for Fort Lee. They've got to be close to perfect here for the remainder of this match. Of any hopes of pulling the incredible come-from-behind victory off. Down by 7, 23-16. Chicas had the initial save. Another point for Fort Lee. Trying to grow their momentum, grow that belief. Bella Plout will once again serve. Blocked in front, 3 in a row there for Fort Lee. Ferocious stuff. And the block in front of the net. Coach Brunelli not electing to use a timeout. Fort Lee trying to continue this momentum. 23-18. Miscommunication between a couple of teammates. The collision leads to another point. There's the timeout by Coach Brunelli. Fort Lee is fighting and clawing its way back. They still have a mountain to climb, but that mountain is a little less of a challenge than it was a couple of points ago. 23-19, the deficit facing Fort Lee. Again, we'd like to thank our proud athletic booster sponsors of 2025-26, Fort Lee PBA, Cafaso's Fairway Market, Finest Construction, Fort Lee Soccer Club, Rusin and Doru Electric, Bridgman Basketball Camp, Fort Lee VFW, Visions Federal Credit Union, It's Greek to Me, Connect One Bank, Bergen Black Sox, Senator Builders, UCS Strength and Speed, and the Collective Salon. Proud presenting sponsors of these free broadcasts on the Fort Lee Athletics YouTube page. And Cliffside Park is hemorrhaging right now. All the momentum on Fort Lee's side. The Bridgemen have gone on a run to pull back to within 3 at 23-20. Making another ace. Fort Lee back to within 2 at 23-21. Fort Lee making it interesting here. Gomez. That one too long. What a comeback here for Fort Lee. They were down by as many as 8. They're back to within 1. Another timeout taken by Cliffside Park. Oh, this rivalry lives up to the hype each and every time. It looked like things were looking rather bleak for Fort Lee only a couple of minutes ago as Cliffside Park was up by 8 and only 2 points away from securing this match. Fort Lee has gone on a run, a 7-0 spurt to pull within 1 at 23-22. Fort Lee's not in the mood for moral victories, though. This means nothing if they can not pull this one out. Bella Plout has been sensational in her service game here on this run. Can they draw level here at 23-23 in set number 3? Bylands dug it out back. Fort Lee tracks it down. Watanabe gets it over. Bylands sliding in front. And that's going to be a carry and a point there for Fort Lee. It's 23-23. Fort Lee has never led in this third set. Skimmed off the top of the net, just over. Nice return there for Fort Lee. That one is long. Fort Lee takes their first lead, 24-23. Match point here for the Bridgemen. Another point, and Fort Lee would produce an improbable come-from-behind victory. Plout serves it too long. That whole time, Fort Lee was flawless going on that run. It went too long, and it's now 24-24. Have to win by 2. Caitlin Bylands will now serve the other libero in this game. Fort Lee was at match point, but the service went too long. In front of the net. Plout saved it. Gomez gets it over. Thrilling volleyball action. Kim, Wong, Gomez. Cliffside Park tracks it down. Deflection in front, and Watanabe and company get the point. Once again, match point. 25-24. Song will serve. Deflected in front, diving effort there by Fort Lee to get it over. Here's the chance for the Bridgemen. Gomez mishit it though, into the side of the net, off the side of her hand. And this match continues, 25-25. Chloe Bylands will now serve for Cliffside Park. Gomez, saved by Gonzalez. Panja gets called for the violation. Another point here for Fort Lee. Another match point opportunity for the Bridgemen. This is the third separate occasion of match point for Fort Lee here in the third set. Anela Watanabe will serve. Can they find the finishing touch? And they will! There's a point for Fort Lee and a thrilling come-from-behind victory for the Bridgemen. They were down by 8 late in that third set, and somehow, someway, Fort Lee responded. They dug down deep, and they found that winning formula. And for the first time since 2023, Fort Lee is victorious over Cliffside Park. And they will stay undefeated in divisional play. They'll move to 4-0 this season, while Cliffside Park will fall to 2-2. And Fort Lee remains in the driver's seat to reclaim their throne atop the divisional championship. Fort Lee with a win goes to 8-3 on the season. Cliffside Park with the defeat will fall to 4-7. And again, think back, Fort Lee trailing by as many as 8 near the end of that third set. Cliffside Park were stuck on 23 for the longest of time, And then Fort Lee had this resilient effort, a thrilling comeback, and eventually finish it off with that 27-25 win. What a match. We hope that you all enjoyed it wherever you may be. So for everybody here from East Gymnasium, I'm Dan Long saying so long and take care, and thanks for watching Fort Lee Volleyball.